are back with another episode, episode 7. This is our third episode in 3 days, so we've been consistent with our output of content that we desired to do from the start. And so, our third day here with another episode. And today, we're going to talk about what it really means to honor our commitments that we make. And we'll I'll be able to share just personal experiences on the types of commitments that I've made and what it really means, what that really entails, what type of benefits come from just honoring and seeing through the commitments that you have set for yourself or you have made an agreement with other people or um, a specific task or job. And so we'll dive into that and kind of talk about uh, what it means to honor those commitments. I think for me, the earliest time that I felt that I honored a big commitment was probably when I was in high school and I was really into basketball. So in my high school years, I played all 4 years in high school for high school sports on the high school basketball team. And I would say that would be the one of the earliest times, the earliest moments where I felt like that was a huge commitment that I made to myself and to the team, to all my teammates and to the coaches, uh, to make sure that I'm there every practice, every game, making sure that I do what I'm told from the coach to give us the best chance to win basketball games and have a successful basketball season. So I know that's something you have to commit for many months out of the school year. Obviously, that's usually what it's like when you're doing these extracurricular activities, especially with sports. Because usually you have your school session, your classes, and then afterwards, on your extra spare time, you have those couple hours where you're spending time practicing and preparing and playing actual games for your basketball season. So for me, I committed to participating in these team sports in basketball specifically because I really enjoyed basketball at the time. I really had aspirations to want to do something with basketball when I got older. Specifically to, play professional ball. And that's always every kid's dream, especially with sports, is, they aspire to achieve great things and to maybe become a professional and make a living off playing sports. And I was no different. I really committed and wanted to get better at my craft, at my basketball skills, so I could do well in high school and maybe even pursue playing basketball at a higher level. And so that definitely did require me to commit to playing on a basketball team at a high school level. So every year I would commit many months out of the year going through practices, working on my drills. I would even spend extra time on my own, just working on my basketball skills, doing drills from videos that I watched, and constantly working on them to improve specific skills that I needed to perform better on the basketball court. And so, that's every day you're just clocking in. It's like going to work. You're putting in the time to get better, to know the team schemes, uh, to prepare yourself for the game so you could give yourself a better chance to win and also a better chance to have better individual success on the court, better performance on the court during those games. And so every day you're committing a couple hours a day, just looking to get better, learning the schemes, doing what the coach tells you to essentially get better, not just for yourself, but also be able to have a synergy with your teammates, to have that chemistry, to build and improve together as a team. And that takes time, that takes commitment. And I knew from an early age in my teenage years that that's something that you just had to do to improve. And I was passionate about it. I really enjoyed playing basketball, so honoring that type of commitment wasn't so hard because it was something I was passionate about. I think during those 4 years too, there's been spurts where, you get discouraged, you don't really feel like doing all those practices. You don't feel like waking up early to go to early morning practices, or you don't feel like uh, going to certain games, whatever the case may be. There's definitely a lot of examples of where I didn't feel like going to practice, didn't really feel like going to games. Maybe there's certain players you didn't really get along with. There's a lot of drama, or you didn't get along with the coach, and that happens in sports, right? In a sports atmosphere and that type of dynamic. And but even with that being said, there's this there's this concept that a lot of pro athletes say it's just being a professional. You gotta go out there and you gotta be a professional, and that at an early age was kind of difficult to grasp. I don't think at that age anybody has told me that you just have to be a professional. There might be days where you don't feel like being at practice, you don't feel like playing basketball, but you still got to do what you got to do because that's the commitment you made to the team. The team and the coach and your teammates really require you to show up and do what you're supposed to do in order to have that team success, in order to improve and to have a higher likely chance to have a successful season. And so when you have now, it's not just about the individual. Obviously, the individual has to work on his own game to also help the team succeed. But you also have to collectively improve as well. So you kind of have to look out for your teammates as well, make sure that they're doing well too, making each other accountable, and you have to really focus and be aware of that as well. And so when you have these commitments like joining a team and pursuing success through winning basketball games, you owe it. You made this commitment. This is what you committed to. This is what is asked of you. And if you do these things, then you have a higher chance of doing well individually as well as collectively with your team. And so, I understood that. And I think as I gotten older in the later years of my high school career, I've realized kind of like the concept of like, yeah, listen, you gotta stick it out. This is what you committed to. You said you gotta commit to season, um, and you gotta see it through all the way through. Uh, and for me personally, not to really boast about my accolades. I mean, it's not really much to be honest for a guy that's played basketball. There's a lot of people out there that achieve way more basketball success. But I remember my, first 2 years in high school. So I actually transferred schools after in the middle of my sophomore year or towards the end of it. So I played 2 seasons in one school, JV my freshman year and varsity my sophomore year. And then after I transferred, I played JV on my junior year and also varsity my senior year. And I remember one specific instance where in after I finished my junior year and finished the basketball season, I I don't know what it was, but maybe I felt a little bit burnt out from, you know, being involved with basketball for so long, for so many years in my life that I just didn't feel the need to play another year, my senior year. And um I remember even after the basketball season, I was telling the varsity head coach that I just didn't want to play anymore. I no longer had the desire. I remember I was given like a couple weeks notice if I wanted to change my mind, but I really committed to just not joining the team for next year. And I think I recall just taking that summer off because usually with that summer, at least when I was growing up and being involved in high school sports, specifically with basketball, like basketball was not just for a couple months in the season, although on a technical standpoint, yes, the regular season is for a couple months during the winter, but then you have other leagues before that where there's like a fall league where there's a lot of games that you could play in the fall. There's a spring league, and in the summer you have to commit to summer league, right? So like it's pretty much all year around. There's like almost no breaks just with basketball. So it's even like it's as if you have like no days off or no season off. Although you might have like a couple weeks off in between the seasons, but pretty much it's like all year long you're just playing basketball, playing games or practicing. And so as you can see, that's like it's a big commitment. It's like there's so much work and time and energy that goes into it. So I remember taking that summer league off, and and when the school started again, I remember my coach asking me, saying that basically was asking me to come back. And I thought it was done. I wasn't even thinking about it because after the week's notice that he gave me prior to the summer, I already committed to not wanting to play basketball again. But when he asked me again, I kind of thought it over and thought about what he said. And maybe I thought it would be good to just come back and commit to it and just play basketball. And I ended up going back. And I think years prior, I kind of did like I really did have an ego of like wanting to play a lot and thinking that I was good enough to play a lot of minutes. But I just remember specifically like when I went back for my senior year for basketball, I was just I felt more humbled. I just felt like, you know what? Like I'm coming back. I didn't even play during the summer league. I didn't even commit to that. So I thought in my head, I'm all for the team. It's not about myself. Like it doesn't even matter how much I play. Um, I'll just do whatever the team asks of me, and just go from there. And I'll commit myself for the season. So definitely had a more humble approach and a selfless approach when going into my senior season. And also understanding the fact that, hey, I got a commitment for these couple months, so I'll commit to it. I'll do the best I can. I'll be a good team player, do whatever is asked of me and hope for the best. And fortunately, fortunately enough, it ended up being as a team just being one of the most successful seasons at our school. And we won our league. We went undefeated and got to like the state playoffs, um, which is basically the organization, uh, the federation that was running at our school for all the playoffs for teams that did well in their leagues, and we got to the second round. Got eliminated, but overall we had a really good record. We did well in our league and got did decent in the playoffs, so we can't complain about the team performance. The whole year, our goal was to win the league. Although we weren't like a top tier basketball program, we achieved our goal of trying to win the league, and so that was a huge accomplishment. And fortunately enough for me as an individual player, I eventually saw a lot more playing time throughout the season. And I think kind of the mindset that I carried for myself really paid off, knowing that it wasn't about myself, but it was about the team and just playing for the team. And again, doing whatever's asked of me, just being selfless with it, with my approach. And it paid off for me individually, and it paid off collectively, and taught me a huge lesson. Um, First off, honoring that commitment that I set for myself for that start of the season, knowing that what I had to do, and also approaching it with the selfless mindset. Not really thinking about so much about myself and my playing time and my stats or looking good in front of people, but more so doing whatever it takes for the team to win. So, I give a lot of credit to high school sports and teaching me a lot of life lessons. And one specifically related to what we're talking about today is just honoring those commitments. So that 4-year commitment every season, just going into it, putting the time in, really there's value in that. There's value in me understanding there's things you need to do that you need to commit to. You might feel a certain way on certain days. On certain days you might feel better and excited to go to practice and games, and others not so much, right? I mean, I've had instances where, on a different season with another team, I didn't like the high school coach. I felt he wasn't a good coach. He wasn't putting us in a position to win, and just felt like a lot of practices were a waste of time. So that was very discouraging, man, and really kind of took away the passion and the enjoyment of playing basketball, which sucks, and it's part of life. It's something that you deal with, when you have a craft that you really are passionate about and really enjoy. There could be things that get in the way that really hinder that enjoyment and really stifle kind of your love for your craft. So definitely had those periods in the time of my life and dealing with coaches. And if there was one thing right now I would tell myself is just keep at it. Just keep working on your game. It might not feel the best right now, but maybe if you commit to it and you value the commitment that you make, it'll make you a stronger person, a person that has some character, that's built up some perseverance, and um and know that it's more than just your feelings, but also understanding that if you still put the work in and you're consistent, it'll somehow play out and it'll work itself out. And so, yeah, I wish someone would have told me that and kind of helped me with my attitude, because I know in those instances when it wasn't going so well, my attitude wouldn't be that great. and it would really affect me in how I approach um, kind of like that routine and those commitments. And if I had a different mindset, just to, as I coined, just being that professional, just going in there and showing up and doing what you need to do, regardless of how you feel. I think I think that's something I would have told myself, and I think if I went about it that way, it would have. Um, I think things would have turned. I don't know if things would have necessarily turned out better in certain circumstances, because maybe some things you can't control. But what it would have definitely changed is my character, um, my perspective, my mindset, and just being stronger and not letting smaller things or other things or my feelings get in the way of completing the task at hand. And I think that's one huge takeaway about honoring those commitments and valuing it, knowing that regardless of how you feel or what the circumstances are, is knowing that there's something that you still need to take care of, and you need to commit to it and just do your best regardless of how you feel. And I think that's very important, especially in times when things aren't really going your way, because in life, things are thrown at you, and you don't always expect things to go the way that you want it to. So if it doesn't, then what do? You just keep doing what you're supposed to do, right? And so, that's definitely an important lesson that I took over time and valued more. And um, I think even after that, there is definitely a lot of commitments that I've made, whether it's committing to, like, volunteer work, or obviously jobs. I mean, you definitely have to be a grown up and accept responsibility when you have jobs. Obviously, much like committing and being a professional as like a high school uh, basketball athlete, it's no different for a job. I think it carries over in the sense that there's responsibilities, there's tasks that you need to do for your job, for your position, and you got to honor it. You got to make sure you honor those commitments and make sure you do a good job. And so when it came to, you know, having those jobs too, I know you got to show up on time, you got to do the work that you need to do for the day, make sure everything's done, and then you do it all over again the next day. And again, that's a important value uh to incorporate in your lifestyle and honoring those commitments. So I I believe that it's so important to do that. And I think there's huge value in that. Just want to mention another example of, and this is also basketball related too. I think I remember one time, this was another job that I took, and it's also basketball related, and it's actually from more of a coaching perspective too. Where I was a coach, I was an assistant coach for a women's basketball team for a community college, and I spent 2 seasons there. The first season went really well, and it was pretty successful in terms of wins and losses, and also for the individuals too, trying to move on to a 4-year university. And then the second year was definitely a lot tougher. I mean, we didn't have as much success, so definitely struggle with that, and struggle with kind of how the coaches or the head coach, the players, how committed they were, like things that could be done, and um, it was really difficult for me to be involved and be invested if I felt like other people weren't as invested as well, and maybe didn't do the right things, and there's a lot of factors into it too. But to put it simply, it's just it was hard to be emotionally invested and to be committed to the cause, the goal, when everything wasn't going so well. And so I remember 8 weeks. It was probably like 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks before the season ended. Uh, yeah, I had those same feelings where I didn't want to show up. I didn't want to go. I thought it was a waste of time. But then I told myself, like, you made that commitment of finishing the season, being a coach, so you gotta do a better job than just being there and not really being present. And so I think I got the conviction that, hey, maybe you just need to step it up as a coach, do what you need to do. Other people may not be as invested as well or might feel the same way. But hey, you got like 6 to 8 weeks left, and you might not get this opportunity again, or this might be the last time you coach again. And you don't want to go out feeling like you didn't give it your all. And I remember just adjusting, with my approach to practices and games, and just being more involved again, even though it was really hard. But I said, hey, I'm gonna commit to these last couple weeks of season, and just gonna give it my best as a coach, do what I need to do, be more invested. And that's exactly what I did. And it taught me a lot. It taught me, like, you know, regardless of the circumstances and what my emotions are, like, I committed to this, and I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, what I'm asked of. Um, and when I do that, then I can't be, I don't know if I could really be one to blame if I'm just doing my part, right? Can I really be the one to blame, um, or find fault in myself if things aren't going the way collectively? At least let me do my part and do what I need to do. So, you won't find much faults in my actions. And so, it did end up being my last season of coaching, and but at least I turned it around and said, hey, let's finish strong. We might The season might have not ended the way we wanted it to, but hey, I let's still do what we need to do. Let's still be a professional, and v- value those commitments that we've made from the start. And so, as I mentioned before, it does build character. It does build perseverance, and it does show a lot about a person, that they're able to still show up and do the things that they need to do, even when things aren't going their way. To be that professional that that we should all aim to be. Um, and so it made me, as a person, just realize how important honoring those commitments are, like finishing goals, like things that you set for yourself, and making sure that you do it and you commit to it, whether it's commitments that you make to yourself, or commitments that you make to a job or to other people. When you make that conviction, or when you verbalize it and you let people know about it, and it's set in stone, now you got to back it up. You got to back it up, and honor those claims that you make, those convictions, the goals that you make. You don't want to be the one to quit in the middle, and just not honor those commitments, not accomplish those goals. I think that's a huge part of being goal oriented and accomplishing goals that you set for yourself is committing to the cause and honoring those commitments. And so that's huge. And I think that's a big part of my belief. And whenever I make a commitment, I always make sure like this is something I need to see through all the way to the end. And I will do my very best to not quit in the middle and see through whatever I set out for myself uh, with these commitments. So I just want to end with that. Hopefully, me sharing those stories have made me or had made you understand a little bit more about commitments and how important those are in seeing it through and honoring it. And hopefully, it does teach you an important lesson and teach you a lot about yourself, like what you're capable of doing and how you could really overcome obstacles and still be able to do the things that you need to do, regardless of the circumstances. And even while you're going through the tough times or while you're going through obstacles, while you're accomplishing these goals or doing these tasks, like, it's going to build up a lot of character within yourself, got to build up a lot of resiliency and perseverance for yourself. And when it comes around next time around, it won't feel as hard, and you feel like you could, I suppose, take on the world. So yeah, that wraps it up for this episode of honoring your commitments, and hopefully you found it very helpful. And it's been nice to kind of reflect on that and understanding the value of uh, accomplishing your goals and honoring your commitments. So if you haven't already, and uh, and you want to support this channel, please subscribe to this video. Drop a like for this video if you like this episode, and also click on the notification button for more content uploads. So I'll see you guys on the next one, and everybody have a good one.